back to my channel. If you're new around here, my name is Hannah. If you're not new, welcome back. Bringing you a bit of a different video today because I've never done a video like this before, but I also haven't done a sit-down video in a long time, and I felt like this would be the perfect sit-down video. Today's video, I'm going to be reviewing TikTok trending books. Honestly, shout out to TikTok because TikTok has gotten me back into reading. I get so much joy in seeing a TikTok book go viral and then picking up and reading it and judging it for myself, because I feel like I kind of have some hot takes behind some of these books. I feel like a lot of these books, everyone freaks out over, everyone gave 10 stars or 5 stars over, state that it's like the best book they've ever read. I don't necessarily love. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm going to be sharing my personal opinion with you guys today. So a few things before we get started. One, if you're new around here, my name is Hannah. I live in New York City. So if you hear any weird noises coming from the background, I apologize. There's construction going on my street. I live right by a school. I have loud neighbors and the whole 9 yards. It's just the New York experience. If you guys are from here, you probably are very used to it. And if you're not from here, yes, it is annoying. Just wanted to state that. Also, the second thing is that, like I stated before, all of these opinions are my own, so if you don't agree with me, that's completely fine, but let's like not start a riot in the comments. Although if you do disagree with me, like you can respectfully disagree with me in comments and we can have like a little discussion over it. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. It's not meant to offend anyone. It's just my personal opinion, and I feel like I do have some hot takes behind some of these books that everyone is obsessed with, so I want to put that on the table. 3, I do have a Goodreads account, and I'm going to put the Goodreads account username here, but I'll also link it down in the description below, so if you guys want to be friends and you want to follow me, I love getting book recs from the people I follow on Goodreads along with TikTok, so we can be friends, we can keep up with each other there, and you guys can keep up with what I'm reading on my page. Without further ado, let's get into the reviews. So I have all of the books that I've read from TikTok on my phone here. Now my heater deciding to turn on right as I'm trying to film this video. I have a list of all the TikTok books that I've read on my phone here, so if you see me looking down at my phone, that's what's going on. I also have the rankings of all of them, plus the book title and the author. All of the books that I've read I do have physical copies of, but I let a lot of friends borrow books lately, so I don't have all the physical copies with me here. So if I don't have it in my hand, I'll put a picture of it up on the screen so that you guys can see what the cover looks like. You know, don't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes the cover is a little bit convincing. And I'm going to be going from my least favorite book that I've read to my #1 top favorite book that I've read. So that's also how we're going to categorize this. My heater sounds like it's about to take off. Short intermission, we'll be right back. We're back. My heater turned off. That thing takes so long to turn on and off. It's actually ridiculous. But I'm ready to get into it now. So the first book that I have on my list, and reminder, it goes from worst to best book that I've read per TikTok's recommendations, is The Midnight Library. And I feel like this may come of shock to some people because so many people absolutely raved about this book. It's by Matt Haig, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, H-A-I-G. So just a quick recap of what it's about. Between life and death, there is a library. Up until now, Nora Seed's life has been full of misery and regret. She feels she has let down everyone, including herself, but things are about to change. When she finds herself in the Midnight Library, she has a chance to make things right. The books in the Midnight Library enable Nora to live as if she had done different things throughout her life. Each one contains a different life, a possible world in which she had made different choices that played out in an infinite number of ways, affecting everyone she knew as well as many people she never met. So that's just a quick recap. That's not the full summary of the book, but essentially the main character goes into this library and she's able to read different books, and each book is a different life that she could have lived. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because I personally felt like it dragged in some areas and I just wasn't as obsessed with it as everyone said they were. I do think it's a cool concept, I just don't think that it was executed as well. I found myself literally wanting to skip some chapters just because I didn't care, and I feel like that's not how you're supposed to read a book, so that's not a good sign. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and just for reference, the average stars that people give it on Goodreads is 4.09 stars, so I was a little bit less than the average. I just personally wasn't a big fan of it. Next book that we have on the list is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This is also another super popular book from TikTok that everyone literally raves over. I personally gave this a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and the average is 3.96 stars on Goodreads, So I feel like I was like kind of in the mix with the average rating for this one. So just a quick recap. Before Owen Michaels disappears, he manages to smuggle a note to his beloved wife of the 1 year, protect her. Despite her confusion and fear, Hannah Hall knows exactly to whom the note refers to. Owen's 16-year-old daughter, Bailey. Bailey, who lost her mother tragically as a child. Bailey, who wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmom. As Hannah's increasingly desperate calls to Owen go unanswered, as the FBI arrests Owen's boss, as a U.S. Marshal and federal agents arrive at her home and unannounced, Hannah quickly realizes her husband isn't who he says he was, and that Bailey just may hold the key to figuring out Owen's true identity and why he really disappeared. I don't really have a reason to give this book 3 out of 5 stars. Nothing really stood out to me as, wow, this was terrible, other than I just wasn't super in love with it. I felt like, similar to the last book, it kind of dragged a bit, and I feel like a lot of parts could have been cut out. Also, I feel like the way that it was written was a little bit odd, and I felt like I was confused at some parts. It's a really quick read and super easy, and if you just need a book to pick up, you could definitely still read this, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. I know a lot of people were, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Just wasn't really my taste in books. The next book that I have on my list is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars just because I didn't really love this book, and I know a lot of people are going to come for me in the comments because so many people raved about this book. It's by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So many people obsessed about this book. A lot of people said that this is the book that got them back into reading, or this is the book that started them reading, and since then they've been little book nerds, but I just didn't think it was that great. Yes, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, I think it was executed very well. It's written in a way that really keeps you engaged as a reader because it's written in such a unique way that you don't really normally see from authors. So I think that was one plus for the book, but I personally gave it 4 out of 5 stars, whereas most people gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Literally the average on Goodreads was 4.45 stars for this book, but I just didn't understand the hype. I feel like so many people fell in love with this book, and it just really wasn't for me. Quick recap: reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving show business in the 80s, and of course the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendships, and great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Also, kind of a spoiler, but not really a spoiler. Sorry if you don't want to hear this, but the ending didn't really surprise me, and I didn't think it was that good, and I feel like the ending could have been written in such a better way, so that's another reason that I just didn't rank it as high as everyone else. I just really didn't get the hype with this book, although I feel like the author did write it really well, which is why I still ranked it pretty high. It was very unique in its own way. The next book that I have on this list is The Perfect Marriage. I don't have a physical copy of this because I let my friend borrow it, so I'm going to pop it up on the screen right here. It's by Geneva Rose. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because I absolutely loved this book, but I couldn't give it 5 out of 5 stars. I just felt like it wasn't as deserving of 5 stars. I very rarely give out 5 stars to books, so I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and the average on Goodreads was 4 out of 5 stars, so I was like amongst everyone in the audience where we were kind of like, this is a really good book, but it wasn't the best book that I've ever read in my entire life. So the summary is, would you defend your husband if he was accused of killing his mistress? Sarah Morgan is a successful and powerful defense attorney in Washington, D.C. At 33 years old, she's named partner at her firm, and life is going exactly how she planned. The same cannot be said for her husband, Adam. He is a struggling writer who has had little success in his career. He begins to tire of his and Sarah's relationship as she is constantly working. Out in the secluded woods, at Adam and Sarah's second home, Adam engages in a passionate affair with Kelly Summers. Then one morning, everything changes. Adam is arrested for Kelly's murder. She had been found stabbed to death in Adam and Sarah's second home. Sarah soon finds herself playing the defender for her own husband, a man accused of murdering his mistress. But is Adam guilty, or is he innocent? The description of this book alone hooked me. I think that it was the author that I found on TikTok that read the description of her book out loud, and I was like, I have to buy that book this instant and I have to read it. Literally, they hook you with the description itself, which I think is one of the most important factors of a book. If you can't hook a reader off of the summary of your back of your book, you're not going to get anyone to read your book. And I thought that this was just the perfect description, and the book itself just takes you on a wild wild ride. I personally really love mystery books and kind of like crime related books. I just think that they're super interesting. It's a genre that I'm very fascinated with right now, and the fact that it takes place in Washington DC is kind of cool because I'm from Washington DC originally, or like from that area. So I really love this book. Wasn't the best book that I've ever read, but I would 10 out of 10 100% recommend it to any person that I come across, which is why I've given it to my friends to read. I'm like, you have to read this book, it was really good. So gave that book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Now we're moving into the category of like the best books that I have ever read in my entire life. All of these books have 5 stars just because they were that good. And remember when I said earlier that I don't give 5 stars out lightly? Like, this book has to have my jaw on the floor, so freaking good and so freaking amazing to make it on the 5-star list. So all of these books have been borrowed out to friends. If someone asks me for a book recommendation, these are the top 3 books that I go for, where I'm like, if you haven't read these, you need to read them right now. So the first one that I'm starting with is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I don't have the physical copy with me because, like I said, I lent it out to a friend because I was like, you have to read this book. She's not a huge reader and she wanted a book that could kind of get her back into reading, so this is why I gave her this book. I just felt like it was a really good light read, and it was kind of like a summery, good feels kind of vibe. So Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid is about 4 famous siblings who throw an epic party to celebrate the end of the summer. But over the course of 24 hours, their lives will change forever. Malibu, August 1983. It's the day of Nina Riva's annual end of summer party, and anticipation is at its fever pitch. Everyone wants to be around famous Rivas. Nina, the talented surfer and supermodel, brother Jay and Hud, one a championship surfer, the other a renowned photographer, and their adored baby sister Kit. Together, the siblings are a source of fascination in Malibu and the world over, especially as they're offspring of the legendary singer Mick Riva. The only person not looking forward to the party of the year is Nina herself, who never wanted to be the center of attention and who has also been very publicly abandoned by her pro tennis player husband. So on and so forth. So basically, these 4 famous siblings throw this annual party every year. It's the end of summer party, and so much takes place at that party. It's kind of one of those books that flashes back to their childhood, then back to the present, then back to their childhood. And I personally loved this book. I read this book when I was in Costa Rica on the beach, and I think it's the perfect beach read or pool read or just light read when you want a feel-good book to pick up. It's crazy, so many plot twists, so many different aspects to the book. It makes you mad, it makes you sad, it makes you happy. You feel so many things with this book, and like I said, it's probably one of the top books that I will always recommend to someone if they want to get back into reading or if they just want a light read to pick up. So Malibu Rising, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Write it down if you haven't written it down already. Next book that I have that's in my top 3 category is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, and I feel like this is no surprise to anyone because this book has been trending on TikTok for months now. Colleen Hoover is probably one of the best authors that I have ever encountered. I have given all of her books 5 stars. She is an insanely talented author. She just keeps you like engaged with every single book that she writes, and she's so good at plot twists, and she's so good at the details, and she's so good at just like making you want to read more. I literally read this book in less than 24 hours. I picked this book up and then could not put it down. I had to read the whole thing in one night, so I feel like that really says something. Quick recap of the book. Lily hasn't always had it easy, but that's never stopped her from working hard for what life she wants. She's come a long way from the small town in Maine where she grew up. She graduated from college, moved to Boston, and started her own business. So when she feels a spark with a gorgeous neurosurgeon named Ryle Kincaid, everything in Lily's life suddenly becomes almost too good to be true. Ryle is assertive, stubborn, and maybe even a little arrogant. He's also sensitive, brilliant, and has a total soft spot for Lily, but Ryle's complete aversion to their relationship is disturbing. As questions about her new relationship overwhelm her, so do thoughts of Atlas Corrigan, her first love, and a link to the past she left behind. She was her kindred spirit, her protector. When Atlas suddenly reappears, everything Lily has built with Ryle is threatened. With this bold and deeply personal novel, Colleen Hoover delivers a heart-wrenching story that breaks exciting new ground for her as a writer. Literally such a good book. I am going to give a trigger warning. I don't want to say what that trigger warning is because it'll give away part of the book, but just if you don't like trigger warning type content, maybe don't read this book. That's all I'm going to say, because if I say specifically what it is, it'll give it away. But you can also look it up yourself. I just don't want to spoil the book. This is another book that I will recommend to someone. Literally 10 times out of 10. It is so freaking good. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, obviously, just because I thought it was that good. and the average is 4.43. So if that says anything, this is like one of the best books that I've ever read in my entire life, and I have read a lot of books in my lifetime. Last but not least, the best book that TikTok has led me to, and probably one of my favorite books of all time, Verity, which is also by Colleen Hoover. I'm telling you, this author is iconic. She's just so good. I want to read all of the books in her collection if possible. This book had me on the edge of my seat. It was another book that I literally read in 24 hours because I could not put it down. It's kind of like a mystery horror type book. It scares you, and then it makes you sad, and then it makes you happy, and then it scares you again. So maybe don't read this book at night because it was a little bit creepy, but I personally really like books that are creepy. Like I said earlier, I like mystery, horror, give me the crime type book. So insanely good. I literally just lent this book to a friend. She gave it back to me and she was like, I picked the book up and could not put it down, and she also read it in 24 hours. Everyone that I've talked to has read this book in literally 24 hours, if that says anything at all. The best book that TikTok has ever led me to, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The average was 4.36 stars on Goodreads, so I was a little bit above the average, but I just think that this book deserves 5 stars. A quick recap of the book. Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of best-selling author Verity Crawford, was hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in the successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect to uncover is the chaotic office in an unfinished autobiography Verity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night their family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents would devastate the already grieving father. But as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying would make it impossible for him to continue to love her. This book is just insane. It takes you on so many twists and turns. Also, the ending is insane. My jaw was on the floor and I was like, what the heck did I just read? If I could go back and reread this book over again and experience it for the first time, I 100% would, because I think that it is that good. And another book that I would recommend for someone 100 times over, just because I think it makes it into the top 3 books that I've ever read, and that says a lot because, like I said, I've read a lot of books. So that's it for the TikTok trending books that I've read, and that's my reviews on all of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know your personal opinion on these books if you guys have read them all. So I would love to have like a little book club type chat in the comments. That would be kind of cool. And I'm definitely going to continue to take recs from TikTok because I feel like it's led me to some of my favorite books ever. So if you guys haven't been on TikTok Book Talk, look it up. Take a look at some of like the best books that people are recommending and read them, because I truly think it's worth it. So that is it for this video. If you're new around here and you enjoyed this video and you also enjoy New York City lifestyle content, you should stick around and subscribe down below. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.